be good if I turn my microphone on. Please be seated. Members, you will all be aware that this is our first meeting in the council. Was closed for refurbishment. Tonight, we are not able to use the voting system, I'm afraid, so all voting for this single item meeting will be by show of hands. We will be using the microphone system, so please press your button when you wish to speak, and please speak directly into the microphone itself. If all councillors are content, we will waive standing rules to allow members to sit while speaking. Is that a yes? Yes. Thank you. As usual, this meeting is being webcast so that residents and other members of the public have the chance to see it live or to view it on demand later if they wish. The meeting is also being screened to the former committee room number 1 in the Guildhall, should we reach capacity in the chamber itself. I'll now say a few words about the evacuation procedure. In the event of an emergency requiring us to evacuate the building, please make yourselves aware of the emergency exits and follow the instructions of the security staff who are present this evening. As usual, I would remind everyone to continue to behave respectfully and appropriately. I would like us to have a good, productive debate tonight, with as many members as possible getting the opportunity to have their say. We will now move on with our meeting, which I hope will be clear and constructive. Apologies. I have received apologies for this evening from Councillors Barker, Orrell, Waters and Webb. Do members have any further apologies to report? I've just been handed a note which says there are further councillors giving apologies. That's Mr. Stuart Barnes, Councillor Stuart Barnes, Councillor Pavlovich, Councillor Looker and Councillor Webb. Correct? Good. Okay. On the issue of mobile phones, can I remind members and officers to please turn your mobile phones to silent and to mute any other electronic equipment for the duration of the council meeting. Thank you. Can I remind everyone, as usual, to speak clearly during debate and use your microphones. Can you also please remember to switch off your microphone after speaking? Please indicate that you wish to speak by raising your hand. I will then call upon you to speak at the appropriate time. To help us to have an effective managed debate tonight, I'd be grateful if you could keep your contributions focused, relevant and to the point. I will keep us on track if I feel we are losing relevance and going off topic. Declarations of interest. May I ask all members who have a personal, prejudicial or disclosable pecuniary interest in any of the business to be discussed at tonight's meeting to declare your interest now, if you have not already done so in advance on the register of interests. Councillor Doughty.
Of the railway.
Thank you. That's been noted. Thank you. We now come to public participation. As this is an extraordinary meeting of the Council, public participants may speak only in relation to the business on the agenda. That is, the devolution deal. As Chair, I reserve the right to terminate the participation of any speaker whose comments stray from that subject. We have 7 people registered to speak this evening, 3 of whom still will join the meeting remotely. The speakers participating remotely will join with the assistance of the technical team. After speaking, they will be asked to leave the Zoom call before I introduce the next speaker. Speakers cannot participate any further in the meeting afterwards, but are welcome to continue watching by viewing the live webcast. Those speaking in person will each be invited to come up to the microphone in turn. After speaking, each will be directed to the public gallery to observe the rest of the meeting if they so wish. I will invite those attending remotely to speak first, And our first speaker is Lee Probert, representing Higher York Further and Higher Education Institutions. Lee Probert, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This is contribution on behalf of High York, which I'm sure members will know comprises Askham Bryan College, the University of York, York St John University and York College. And all four institutions, given our reach, are committed to supporting the planned devolution. And in fact, we already have extensive links with schools and employers across both the City of York and the whole of North Yorkshire. We think that devolution provides a real focus for inward investment, and alongside that investment, partly publicly funded, we think there's an opportunity to leverage additional private sources of funding, which would enable us, certainly within our partnership and with other city partners, to expedite the delivery of some of our already agreed priorities. We think, in addition, that having a mayor in office, that provides a great opportunity for convening across the area, especially alongside those priorities which we share with our colleagues and partners within North Yorkshire, so that we can have some significant coherence in terms of taking those priorities forward. And we've seen in Teesside and the West Midlands, for example, that coherence of view and the ability to coalesce around priorities has resulted in significant additional investment. Whilst we think, of course, the mayor in the combined authority may well represent a political party, the office will represent the area, and at this stage will be one of a relatively small number of areas across the country that have a Devo deal. And that significance of voice should be a real advantage for us right across Whitehall and Westminster, with a real opportunity to influence government. There are priorities which we share across York and North Yorkshire, which we could come together to bring focus on. Skills around innovation. We'll hear a little bit more about the bioeconomy, but also priorities which we share around cultural heritage. And all too often, these are perhaps overlooked by central government, but perhaps with a combined authority with a coherent view, we might leverage more investment there. Given the ability of elected members in that combined authority infrastructure, we think we can probably also take control of sequencing infrastructure investments, so they make sense for us locally rather than being centrally determined from Whitehall. And a real example of this, it will be the devolution of the adult skills budget, which will provide local accountability for the way in which we invest in skills and support the development of skills for our communities. And we're already well ahead of that game, having already adopted a 10-year skills strategy, which gives us something to invest in, and already real clarity around what the York voice in that is. And finally, focused political leadership across York and North Yorkshire, we think, will enable clear asks to be put into some of the allied locally devolved decision-making structures. For example, integrated care system. A devolved authority could promote issues into that which are pan-geographic, such as workforce development, which we know is a challenge, whilst enabling local authorities.
Mr. Probert, I have to stop you there, I'm afraid. That's 3 minutes, quite a little bit more than 3 minutes, if I may say so. Your comments have been noted and will be taken into account when the item is debated. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you, Jeff.
Now call upon our next speaker, Joan Concannon, representing the University of York.
Good evening and thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm here to represent the Bio-Yorkshire Partnership comprised of the University of York, Askham Bryan College and Ferris Science, and we very much welcome the devolution deal and the progress made so far. So our focus going forward will be to continue the collaborative and productive working relationship with the Council, the new combined authority in time, and the mayoral elected authority when it comes. We have a new government, but I think the key point is that both the prior strategy on levelling up, the new focus on finding fast economic growth, recognises the importance of local areas having greater control of their own economic destiny. And our view is to work with you to figure out how to maximise those opportunities in a shifting political landscape. While it may be unlikely that City of York Council might qualify for an investment zone bid as currently announced, We are absolutely convinced that Bio-Yorkshire is an asset to the Council and the Combined Authorities plan for growth, jobs and skills. And this remains an absolute priority and should remain an absolute priority under the new mayor, because it is the main priority of the new government. And if there were a change of government around the green agenda, it would still fit very much in that sphere. York has a resilient economy, so we're incredibly well placed to use major endeavours like Bio-Yorkshire to prove that we have the research and development infrastructure and capability, the skills, the space and the desire to deliver economic growth fast. Our independent economic analysis points to a significant opportunity to create more than 4,000 new jobs, drive a reskilling and green skills agenda, and deliver an 8-to-1 return on the initial investment required. The bioeconomy is a great example of what devolution can deliver, an area making the most of its natural and human capital, a forward-looking coalition of local leaders, backing from government to unlock investment locally and from businesses, a hub of organisations taking it forward, and a high potential and quick impact economic gain. Recent journalist noted that the opportunity for a mayoral leader who can grab local investment decision-making and the creation of good jobs will take votes with them. This isn't only a question of whether it's the right policy, but of political bravery in exploring an alternative funding model for research and development. We are creating a working group to work with all parties, including national Whitehall representatives from BEIS and UKRI and other relevant funding bodies, to ensure we can make the most of the new devolved powers and funding structures to achieve the benefits we are sure can be delivered. Bio-Yorkshire will optimise public and private sector investment into the region, including opportunities for foreign direct investment as well. So we're working alongside a strong and growing coalition of local and national businesses, many of whom are sitting on our industrial strategy group, including Drax, Cranswick, Nestle, Croda, Anglo-American, Ocado, Flamingo Land and Videro Bio. We've also received backing from our local politicians, and we're extremely keen, therefore, to carry on the constructive conversations with government about this project and how it can deliver a devolution deal that will drive economic, social and cultural benefit for all of our residents and people across York and North Yorkshire. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Concannon. Thank you. Your comments will be noted and will be taken into account when the item is debated. Thank you for your contribution. Our next speaker by remote means is Mr. Jeff Beacon. Mr. Beacon.
Thank you. York's housing delivery plan says housing land is in the control of a small number of commercial house builders. So the council has little power to assemble land for new houses. We should welcome the new combined authority with its increased powers. In the meantime, York Council should abandon the local plan, which will hamper the new authority and continue to make York unaffordable for the lower paid. No new houses in the plan will be affordable to them. The council should prepare the political landscape for the new authority by telling us citizens about this unfairness and also the consequences of our unsustainable climate destroying behaviour, particularly in areas such as Woodthorpe, Bishopthorpe and Copmanthorpe, where many residents have climate emissions 5 times those in the city centre. Those plans for similar settlements in the local plan are clearly against national planning policy, which incorporates the UN Brundtland Resolution.
Mr. Beacon, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I do apologise for saying that you were joining remotely. I didn't know you were in the chamber. My information was wrong. But I did say right at the beginning of this meeting that I wanted the debate to be relevant, on topic, and absolutely regarding the devolution deal. So unless you can bring your contribution back onto that fine topic, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you.
Well, let me get to the next sentence then, which incorporates the UN Brundtland Resolution, which argues for climate fairness. The new authority needs to make big changes to the way we live, including to our morality. And Shakespeare's tales help us. If we were banished, whither would we go? To sin, to dwell alongside recent drowned, to Somalia with little left to eat, where mothers hug their silent dying babes, or drowning Tuvalu to gulp our last? What would we think to be thus used? This is the stranger's case, and this our mountainish inhumanity. Let us have a minute's silence to think about these ill-used people.
Thank you, Mr. Beacon.
Was my 3 minutes up?
I'm sorry,
Was my 3 minutes up? I was hoping for some silence.
I thought you'd finished.
No,
Please.
I said, let's have a minute's silence to think.
Well,
about
no,
these
I'm not
people.
taking a minute's silence. We have a lot of business tonight and I want to get on and
I
debate
thought I
it.
had 3 minutes.
You can have another minute, yes. But
Well, that will
please,
be-
please,
that will-
please make it topical and relevant to the debate on
That
the
will be
agenda tonight.
That will be
Thank you.
silence to
I
think.
won't say it again.
That will be silence to think about what we're doing and what the new authority must do to stop it happening.
I think we'll move to the next speaker, Mr. Beacon. Your contribution has been noted and it will be taken into account. Our next speaker, who is actually in the chamber as well, is Honorary Alderman Brian Watson. Alderman Watson.
Sorry about that. I just had to move into a bit of light because it's quite dark at this end, and if you've written it out, it's very difficult to read. Firstly, may I ask about the consultation? Usually that means discussing whether to do or not to do, and the benefits of both. A public consultation means with the public, in this case, the residents of York. Although this seems to be with a lot of businesses, etc. So who takes priority? The city council taxpayer or the businesses owned by out-of-city folk? Is there a yes-no facility? Is there a yes-no facility for North Yorkshire? Both are very important. Last time this was raised about joining forces, you didn't want it. A small petition was raised and taken to the government, I believe, to that effect. Now you want it. And why the change? You state that millions of pounds will be coming in to facilitate York Central. What's that mean? It was not feasible before and we couldn't afford it. There is not, I believe, a scheme that springs to mind that has not overspent. Now you have an application to turn the Guildhall into a giant pub. I don't think that sprung up in anybody's mind. Yesterday, you passed something that was unviable by the developer's standards, but it was agreed. You may wonder why I illustrated just two samples. Well, so do I. Well, will all the rest of North Yorkshire taxpayers want us to join? A council that didn't want to join now wants to, and take the lion's share of the money pot that comes in. Somehow, I can't see that going down very well with those taxpayers. Do you honestly think that you will be free to run our city on our own? Are you not frightened of just being a sidelined council? As a side question to that, and it all refers to the executive system, what happened to the change that the committee system was in line for? Or have you just kicked that into long grass of debate? Tonight's papers may be impressively thick, but there is an awful lot of thinking and consulting to do. And that should be done before you step forward. And remember, it could be a brand new council that carries this, opens this can of worms. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Watson. And our final speaker tonight is Mr. Peter Richardson. Who else?
Oh, that one was.
Are we okay down there? Mr. Peter Richardson.
Good evening. If the information published in the press is accurate, if the information in the press is accurate, All I have to say is that the devolution document that was signed on the 1st of August is not worth the paper it's written on. For the simple reason, 540 million over 30 years, working out as 18 million a year, is trivial. And it led me to do a little bit of studying. There are 15 towns and a city in North Yorkshire. Now, if you divide that equally into that 18 million, that's only 1.2 million for each area. And it's literally, you could say, oh, it'll pay this council's wage bill. So far as bringing up investments, 750 million, you should have that money in here now to talk about it. And you should be developing the City of York and North Yorkshire as such. But you're not doing that. You're making a hell of a mess of the City of York. 4 years ago, I asked the leader of the Labour councillors, was he a bloody minded idiot? He didn't refer to it. He never responded. So I assume that he was. And it's quite possible because you lot are silent. You fall into that category. There is the there's large or small towns, and if divided into each one, there's going to be nothing else but bickering among them about spending the money. 30 years is a long time. So, in effect, you should be rejecting it without doubt. If I've got enough time, that is said, that's all I could say about the devolution. But coupled with it is that this city council is in such a mess with the adult social care.
We are at 3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Your contribution has been noted and will be taken into account when the matter is debated. And can I also remind members and public speakers as well to be courteous? Thank you. Now, item 3. We now come to the main business on the agenda, which is to consider the recommendations of the executive as published in the supplementary papers and circulated around the chamber tonight. Devolution at page 1 of your agenda pack. Before we go on to that, I want to say a few words about the debate on this item. I have used my discretion as chair to offer all group leaders, all their representatives, the opportunity to speak for 5 minutes instead of the usual 3, on condition that they speak on behalf of their whole group. If they do so, I will not be accepting any other speeches from their group on general debate. The leader of the Labour group, Councillor Douglas, the leader of the Conservative group, Councillor Doughty, Councillor Galvin of the York Independents, Councillor Fenton of the Liberal Democrats and Councillor Craghill of the Green Party have all accepted that offer. So as a matter of scene setting, I will now invite the leader of the council to move the executive recommendation, and he will have 5 minutes in which to put the basis of that debate. Council leader.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Devolution is a topic that we have long discussed here in York. And tonight we've reached a point where a proposed devolution deal is on the table from government. Colleagues will remember just over a year ago, it was announced that our cross-party Back York campaign had been successful in keeping local decision-making here in York. City of York Council remained a unitary authority, ensuring that the residents and businesses in York still had a locally elected council. Following that decision, our pledge was to build on that campaign and undertake the work needed to access the significant funding that devolution could unlock to benefit communities and businesses. Since that day, that work has continued at pace, with a historic milestone reached on Yorkshire Day, where the proposed devolution deal for York and North Yorkshire was signed. As colleagues will see from the papers, the proposed deal is designed to secure investment on a much larger scale than we are currently able to access. It is the only city and rural deal on this scale, previously achieved by the likes of Greater Manchester, the West Midlands, and South and West Yorkshire. If agreed, a new combined authority will be created with 540 million of new money in transport, housing, and education over the next 30 years. This will be supported by a transfer of some powers and devolved budgets from Whitehall, meaning the mayor and local councils will have more flexibility over how best to spend money on local priorities, such as affordable housing and economic development sites. There is no doubt that devolution is a huge opportunity for our city. The proposed deal could help strengthen our local economy at a time when it is needed most, from skills development and supporting small business to the 22 million investment package to build new homes on brownfield land and develop affordable homes. Now, I know that some colleagues will have reservations about the mayoral model and its impact on local democracy, something that I do sympathise with. However, we must be pragmatic to achieve the best for local communities. Quite simply, to achieve major regeneration projects and secure that much needed new investment, devolution is the only game in town from the government, even if rightly we don't like every detail of the administrative arrangements. The proposed deal looks to secure York's influence in the new working arrangements of the combined authority. Given the significance of devolution and the potential changes to local governance, it is crucial that we seek the views and thoughts of residents, communities, and businesses. If we agree the recommendations this evening, a consultation on the details and timeline of a mayoral-led combined authority for York and North Yorkshire will launch in mid-October, covering a period of 8 weeks. Colleagues will then have a final opportunity to consider the deal and feedback from the consultation early next year. This is undoubtedly a historic moment for our city. The proposed deal could unlock 30 years of vital investment needed to improve economic prosperity and long-term opportunities. That is why, following the executive considerations this morning, I ask councillors to support the recommendations and allow officers to undertake the consultation, seeking residents' and businesses' views on the details of this important matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aspin. I'll now invite the seconder to speak, Councillor de Gorn.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Devolution presents us with a huge opportunity for the city and the region. Today, we are at a crucial milestone, a proposed deal now on the table, and it's up to full council to decide whether to progress and undertake statutory consultation on the scheme, as well as to take the necessary steps to prepare for creation of a combined authority. As presented in tonight's papers, the proposed deal includes considerable new funding. As you've heard, over £500 million for York and North Yorkshire over the next 30 years, which will be transferred to us by central government. And most importantly, it's only available through this deal. Some new powers will also be devolved from government departments or other agencies, bringing new powers closer to the people of York rather than centralised in Westminster. The deal, if agreed, would see a new mayor elected in May 2024 to lead a new combined authority would oversee strategic projects across the region. Like others, I do share some concerns about the Metro Mayor model, particularly given that some strategic powers will be moved up to the region's new combined authority. However, as you have heard, we will have equal representation to that of North Yorkshire. And fundamentally, if we want to secure that investment, this is the only deal on the table. Whilst we need to carefully take the views of residents and stakeholders, we should be clear that rejecting a deal would mean that devolved powers would remain with central government and government funding significantly less at this critical time for the people of York. While we need devolution can be that once in a lifetime opportunity to help accelerate local and regional action already being undertaken to address many of our challenges. If we agree the recommendations and proceed tonight, colleagues will have one last opportunity, as the leader has explained, early next year to consider the feedback from the consultation, and that feedback will be essential in helping us to consider our final decision. So it's important we can get moving on that process. Lord Mayor, I hope that colleagues will support the recommendations so we can move to formal public consultation on the details of the deal and the scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor de Gorn. Right, I now invite debate on the recommendations. Please bear in mind what I said a little while ago about the 5-minute rule. Of course, Councillor Dave Taylor might wish to speak, and of course, yours is only 3 minutes, Councillor Taylor. So, debate, please press your button when you wish to speak, and let's go forward. Councillor Garvin, I believe you're first. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I can assure you it won't take 5 minutes because at the end of the day, of course, I'm representing York Independence, which consists of me and thee. And it's quite something to be representing the Lord Mayor to debate in this council chamber. So he won't have to bang the table. Chairman, Lord Mayor, I do have reservations about this deal. My main reservation is, and I would address this to the younger members of the council who are here for the long haul. Be careful, this could be a precursor to assimilating York into a larger North Yorkshire authority. I feel very strongly that that should not be allowed to happen. And as I hope for those of you who are here for the long haul, you will fight like hell to prevent that happening. The other reservation I've got is that we have to make sure that York gets its fair share, because whilst it's a small independent authority, of course, in population size, our voice may not be heard. So, Lord Mayor, all I would say from that on is to say, I wish the new authority and this authority all the very best in the future, because I shall not be here to see the devolution take off, but I will be sitting on the sidelines, God willing, for the odd year or two to see how it all pans out. And with that, Lord Mayor, thank you. And I do hope that you accept what I've said on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Galvin. Yes, I do. And if you can see me behind this piece of Gothic decoration. Okay, our next speaker is Councillor Doughty.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. These are undoubtedly worrying and challenging financial times, not only in the UK, but across Europe and indeed much of the globe. First, we had COVID, then the war that Russia ruthlessly purged on Ukraine to destabilize the fuel and energy markets. While some markets have stabilized, recovery will be long and difficult. It's therefore imperative that the Council does its utmost to secure the £540 million initial investment from the government the devolution deal could unlock for York and North Yorkshire, with more potentially coming in future spending rounds. It's not the biggest potential gain share deal announced per head so far. It's less than some, but it's more pro rata than the recently announced proposal for Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire, more than the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, and a similar investment seen to devolution leader Teesside and the Stirling regeneration work already seen under their Mayor Ben Houchen. The Conservative group has long spoken of the need to work more closely with our local authority neighbours, and we think there would have been further efficiency benefits of closer cooperation with some of our neighbouring districts, as we've discussed previously. I've no doubt there will be challenges for York. The Council missed the opportunity to become part of an equal-sized authority in an East-West devolution deal, will need to speak up and step up to the plate when it comes to a fair division of funding for our city. We need to make the most of every penny so that this can make a difference to the lives of the citizens in York. Time will tell whether the council now, or indeed post the local elections in May next year, has the calibre to be up to the job. I sincerely hope it will, whatever the political colour may be. Although we have some trepidation about bureaucracy, not helped by what we've seen from the council in York, now is certainly the time to ensure the devolution deal with North Yorkshire is secured to access the funding that establishing a combined authority with an elected mayor in May 2024 would bring. I'll not parrot list the individual figures the funding could bring. It's available for people to see. But the investment for further developing York Central, cash affordable housing, which the Conservatives do genuinely care about, the regeneration of brownfield sites, a boost for our city centre and across the city, and towards a cleaner environment and new powers to help improve the regional transport network are all worthy aims, not to mention the much needed economic growth to meet the needs of our residents in the next few decades. The Conservative group will therefore be supporting the recommendations and, subject to the council decision today, hope the public consultation will be the next step and is fair and transparent, and that future governance is a huge improvement on what's gone on before. On this note, I also welcome the council's new Director of Governance and Monitoring Officer, Bryn Roberts, at this crucial time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doughty, for that contribution. I now call on Councillor Douglas on behalf of the Labour Group. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm speaking on behalf of the Labour councillors on this historic and potentially game-changing evening for our beautiful and vibrant city. The Labour councillors will be voting in favour of the recommendations to back the deal, the governance review, and the initiation of the consultation process. This deal for York and North Yorkshire is better than many other areas have recently been offered. Of course, we would want and demand more for our city and region, in support of the investment in vital local services, the housing and transport improvements we so desperately need. To push on with our fair transition to a green economy and the world-leading innovation spearheaded by our local businesses, government departments, higher and further education institutions. There is a wealth of opportunity out there for the people of York and North Yorkshire as we move into 2023. And we must seize it by the scruff of the neck. We should all recognise that, unfortunately, our city cannot afford financially to turn down the deal. City of York council budgets have been cut by well over £100 million since the beginning of austerity in 2010. Councillors, residents and council staff all see the impact of this every day in our ability to improve and maintain service levels and push forward with investment in new initiatives we so desperately need to see for the benefit of residents of all ages across the full extent of our city's boundaries. The option of devolution with an out and elected mayor is largely worthless. The deal on the table will bring York a portion of a total pot of 540 million over a 30-year period. This funding will allow us to go into partnership with our neighbouring local authority, North Yorkshire, and other investors to deliver on the affordable, well-insulated housing and the integrated, regular and reliable public transport, both so desperately needed, from Skelton to Weldrake and Holtby to Hesse. To fund this vision, the only viable option on any horizon is to accept the elected mayor and work towards a new way of governing in partnership with North Yorkshire County Council and the mayor to be elected in 2024. The deal would bring many aspects of decision-making closer to home, greater control over our own destiny and priorities, and potentially the opportunity for further devolution in the broader Yorkshire region in the future. I add that for all my positive comments so far, it doesn't mean that my colleagues and I aren't without our concerns. We're not convinced that another layer of government, a mayor's office, is a prerequisite for effective partnership working with North Yorkshire. Governance and decision-making within the combined authority must work for York. Our city will need strong political leadership and a strong vision of where it wants to go over the coming 10 years in order to fully benefit from the financial opportunities devolution can bring. Our politicians, council officers and partners will need to be tremendously proactive in bringing projects and initiatives forward in order for our city to get the investment and opportunity it deserves. York is the economic powerhouse of the York and North Yorkshire region and must continue to be recognised as such. We want to see the Mayor's Office and combined authority based in York, the fulcrum of the region, accessible to North Yorkshire colleagues, Westminster and investment opportunities across the UK. Business, civic society and education colleagues across our region welcome this suggestion. The Labour group will be voting in support of all the recommendations and now want to see our city move on to the next stage, planning for a greener, fairer and innovative future with a strong economy, delivering prosperity, well-paid jobs, decent, affordable housing and publicly owned, integrated and active transport system that allows everyone to move around and get where they need to be without congestion and with good air quality. Improved health and well-being for us all, a city where the 10-year life expectancy gap is gone and your postcode doesn't determine how long you live. This is a positive outlook for our city, tackling the issues we have known exist for years, currently holding our city and our residents and businesses back. Perhaps I'm overly optimistic, but I've always believed in aiming high and don't apologise for wanting the best for everyone who lives in York. I speak on behalf of Labour. No other speakers will follow me. We've considered the pros and cons and are ready to tackle both in a constructive partnership approach. Now let's get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Our next speaker is Councillor Craghill on behalf of the Green Party, Green Group.
Green Group. Thank you, Lord Mayor. On balance, the Green Group will be supporting the recommendations. We think this is far from a perfect offer and we do have reservations about parts of it. However, we also think there are some very positive elements and overall it is the best we are going to get from this government. The offer of 18 million of new government funding for the region each year for the next 30 years, along with other investments and potential service improvements for York residents, is something that we cannot afford to turn down. If a final decision is made to take this forwards, we would like to see more emphasis on ensuring the benefits of the economic prosperity the deal is aiming for are shared more equally and inclusively across the region and within areas, including within York. And we would like to see the creation of the new green jobs and improved stewarding of our amazing shared natural environment put right at the centre of mayoral policies. The minded to commitment in the deal to the additional 50 million for York Central is very welcome. And we need to make sure this is used to make York Central a truly exemplar zero carbon development that offers affordable housing in great local communities to York residents. Hopefully a significant proportion of the further 13 million in the deal to help deliver affordable homes on brownfield land over the next 2 financial years will come to York to help deliver this ambition, along with this closer strategic partnership with Homes England that forms part of the deal. In the immediate term, we also very much welcome the 2 million allocated this financial year to York to deliver a programme of retrofitted, recycled shared ownership properties, building on the council's previous successful schemes. The commitment of 7 million to help drive green economic growth is welcome, if a bit short on detail as to what this will mean. Creating a carbon negative region and promoting low carbon energy projects as part of the local energy plans currently in production is very much to be welcomed. The region has huge potential for genuinely sustainable, low carbon, renewable energy production. As a Green Group, however, our key concern here is the role that seems to be envisaged for Drax in all of this, and this does need to be addressed. Drax is the single biggest carbon emitter in the United Kingdom. It's the second largest global producer of wood pellets. Drax imports and burns more wood from old growth forests in the United States and Canada each year than all of the UK produces in a year, but gets none of its wood from the UK, and it's destroying local communities around the globe. Whether unproven carbon capture technology one day delivers or not, this is never going to be a sustainable business, and we do need to rethink its role in our zero carbon plans. Drax aside, our main reservations about the deal are the loss of some powers from City of York Council. The idea of devolution is supposed to be that powers are always devolved down from the higher level and not up from the level closest to residents. In this case, there is a concern about the transfer of strategic transport powers from City of York Council up to the new combined authority. This means it will be very important for York to have a very clear policy of its own for a sustainable and inclusive transport system for the city, and to argue very strongly for this. On the plus side, the carbon negative ambition should hold out the prospect of delivering sustainable transport policy across the rural and urban parts of the region, providing better services and tackling climate change. We have to be optimistic on that. And of course, the option for the mayor to bring forward bus franchising is something we very much welcome and would like to see taken forwards. Bus services should be provided in the interests of local residents, not private companies. Finally, we would have preferred to see a more inclusive combined authority governance structure involving elected members from all parties and parts of the region. But the current proposals do offer some significant checks and balances on the power of the mayor. Whilst there may be some concern that these could work more effectively to stop things happening rather than to drive forward the changes we need, again, we have to be optimistic and hope there will be a lot of consensus decision-making to deliver the ambitious outcomes that we need. We support the recommendations and look forward to seeing the consultation responses from the public on the scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Craghill. The next speaker on my list is Councillor Fenton. Councillor Fenton.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to set out the position of the Liberal Democrat group on the proposed devolution deal. As Liberal Democrats, we have a long and proud tradition in local government, which stems from a simple belief that decisions which impact on local communities are best made as close to those communities as possible. We've long argued for greater devolution of powers and funding from Whitehall to deliver the investment needed to unlock York's full potential. Some of us, I think across party, have long had aspirations for a Yorkshire-wide devolution deal that would see a transfer of significant powers and funding to local decision makers and communities. But as we've heard, the government has made clear that a mayoral deal such as the one we're considering today is the only form of devolution on offer for York and North Yorkshire. And if we were to decide not to engage in this process, I believe there would be a very real risk of York and North Yorkshire being left behind and further disadvantaged financially. We believe, therefore, it's crucial that any deal takes into account York's historical, economic and cultural influence in the region, and that our needs and importantly our values as a city are respected and upheld. Through the scrutiny process thus far, there has been an initial opportunity to explore the arrangements through which the elected mayor would be accountable to us as elected representatives and to residents. This includes the limits on the mayor's powers, such as a functional power of competence and the requirement to obtain local authority consent for exercising most of the powers. And as a group, we look forward to scrutiny continuing to play an active role in the months ahead. Cooperation across our region has been and will continue to be crucial in tackling the major issues that we all face. This has been evident in the Council's effective working relationship with North Yorkshire Local Enterprise Partnership and our strong links with North Yorkshire councils, as well as educational establishments. This has illustrated the critical importance of York to the wider region and our capacity to engage with partners whilst retaining our status as a unitary authority. The proposed deal would, we believe, enable us to further strengthen this joint working and bring in much needed investment. The specific funding proposed to invest in our city's priorities is undoubtedly a positive, including, for example, on housing, York Central, and measures to establish the region as a UK hub for green innovation as an enterprise, as mentioned by some of the public speakers. Success in securing the second highest gain share level per head of population when compared to other deals across the north is, we believe, testament to the hard work and tenacity of all involved during what must have been quite difficult negotiations. This will hopefully provide us with strong foundations going forward to ensure devolution delivers benefits for everyone in York and North Yorkshire. This deal, we believe, will help further strengthen York's voice in Westminster and allow our region to take its rightful place at the top table. The deal is, we hope, a stepping stone to even greater repatriation of power and responsibility from national to regional level. We must and will continue to make the case for levelling up promises to be delivered to unlock the full potential of York and the north of England through better connectivity, sustainability, business innovation, and crucially, equality of opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fenton. And excuse me, the last speaker, as I understand it, is Councillor Dave Taylor. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. May I first say what a pleasure it is to be back in this wonderful council chamber. I'll keep this really short because I only have 2 points that I really want to make. Firstly, I've always had grave concerns about these large mayoralties because I don't believe that the idea has been well supported by the public. But like most of us, I assume, I think I shall vote in favour of the consultation going ahead with our residents, as the government, as many previous speakers have said, the government is promising significant sums of money to encourage us along this route. Secondly, my ongoing concern is that if central government makes such a hash of the country's finances as it is currently appearing to be doing, that maybe it will feel compelled to claw back the capital promised for such devolution and levelling up schemes. I wonder if members feel there are sufficient checks and balances in the deal to prevent government reneging upon it and clawing the money back.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Now it's the council leaders' opportunity to reply. Do you wish to do so, Councillor Aspin?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. If I could just thank colleagues for their contributions, including Councillors Crackhill and Fenton, and to the other group leaders, just to briefly summarise, with Councillor Doughty, very much agree that the devolution deal, particularly because of those difficult times that you refer to nationally and internationally, is important, but particularly important at the moment. Councillor Galvin, I very much agree with you about keeping York as an independent unitary authority now and in the future, and also the need for all of us to work together to make sure that York gets its fair share out of those arrangements and the combined authority, whoever is here in May and into 30 years into the future. To Councillor Douglas, I very much agree in terms of the financial reductions that local government has seen, is seeing, and undoubtedly we will see next year, but that we have those fantastic opportunities in York, and this gives us a huge vehicle through which to progress those. And as other colleagues like Councillor Fenton has said, it keeps many of those broader conversations about Yorkshire devolution and working together, not just with North Yorkshire, but other colleagues alive. And to Councillor Taylor, it does bring significant funding, but there are risks within the deal, some of which you highlight, and there are aspects of it that are subject to business cases and future agreement with the Treasury. But given what we are hearing from government ministers at the moment, it genuinely is quite a worrying time for local government. You have the new local government minister going around Conservative Party conference saying there's fat to cut from councils. You have a Secretary of State who doesn't particularly like councils, but prefers combined authorities. So it is undoubtedly, when you look at that backdrop, it's going to be really important for us to work through whatever mechanisms are there and on offer to make sure we can deliver those projects and basic services that residents rightly want and deserve, and that we continue to make that case to government for local government. And then the final point, I would just say that it will be for all of us through these arrangements, whether that's the Combined Authority, the new Scrutiny Committee, the new Audit Committee, and future committees, no doubt, for example, covering transport to work together in those arrangements. It is great that York will have half the places on all of those bodies. And obviously, we will have a job to do working with our officers, the new Combined Authority officers, to make sure that we have the projects ready and that we make the best of all of the opportunities that we know are there in York. So I'm sensing that we're all voting in favour of this going out to consultation. And I would just encourage residents, businesses and communities through ward councillors and through every means possible to get involved in that, understand what that might mean, so it can come back next year and we can have a further debate at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aspin, and thank you, members, for all your contributions. We've had a good debate this evening with various views from all sides of the chamber. I now want to take a vote on the recommendations. So please raise your hands when I ask you in a moment to indicate whether you wish to vote for, against, or abstain in relation to the recommendations. First of all, those wishing to vote for the recommendations, please.
It's unanimous, Chair.
That is unanimous. And therefore the recommendations are carried. That brings us to the end of business for tonight. The observant amongst you will have noticed that we only had 5 public speakers against the 7 that I announced, but 2 dropped out at very short notice. Thank you, all of you, for being here tonight for a good debate. The business is now concluded and the meeting is closed. Thank you.